Betrayal and Revenge. And our next guest is a best-selling author known for weaving all three of those into her beloved crime novels. Her first novel, Primetime, about a female reporter on the cusp of deciphering deadly secrets hidden within her spam folder, won the Agatha Award for Best First Novel back in 2007. And since then, she's released 14 books, each and every one receiving awards and nominations for her incredible writing. She won the Simon Schuster Mary Higgins Clark Award in 2013 for her book, The Other Woman, about dirty politics, dirty tricks, and a barrage of final twists. Ooh, I got goosebumps. And more recently, she received the Anthony Award for The Murder List, a cat and mouse thriller about a young law student whose battle for justice turns into a battle for survival. And I'm just scratching the surface of the accolades she received for her brilliant writing. Suspense thriller legends like James Patterson, David Baldacci are celebrating her. In fact, I got a chance to give her love on the back of her book, The Guest House. She's a legend and somebody I admire so gratefully. Hank Phillippi Ryan is just, you know when they tell you get nervous when you meet your heroes? I'm super nervous. That's why I'm stumbling through this script, because she is one of my heroes. Not only is she a USA Today best-selling author, Hank is a respected investigative journalist, 37 Emmy Awards, 14 Edward R. Murrow under her belt. And her new book, One Wrong Word, is brilliant. It follows the character of Arden, a savvy crisis manager whose world is turned upside down when she's unfairly accused of having an affair with a powerful client, but has one shot to redeem herself. Do I have you yet? Do I have your attention? Welcome to the show, Hank Phillippi Ryan! Okay, full disclosure, that lead-in for you was so long because I was like, I have to tell her everything I love, because once I look over here, you're here.
It has been so long. You are such an inspiration, Tamron. Thank you.
Are you kidding? When I wrote my first crime novel, you know, I said you can't read other people's work because you don't want to copy them, but yet I was like, what would Hank do? What would Hank write in this chapter? Because so often the narrative of women is what you accomplish before age 50. You were 57 when you took this whole leap of faith in this career of writing. I
mean, you know, I grew up in really rural Indiana, so rural that you couldn't see another house from our house. And my sister and I used to ride our ponies to the library to get books. I know, isn't that a picture? And we would read up in the hayloft of the barn behind our house. And that's where I fell in love with storytelling, with Nancy Drew and Sherlock Holmes and all the Agatha Christies. And I thought, you know, I'd love to be a mystery writer. And maybe I will. And then I also thought, maybe I'll be a detective. So what happened was I went into broadcasting, I went into television, but one day when I was in my mid-50s, you're so right, I just had a really good idea for a novel. And I'm a firm believer in that things happen at the time that they're supposed to happen.
What was happening at that time? Absolutely. Well, that novel was Primetime. But take us in, because so many people right now are watching, even the response of the audience, the idea of doing something big over the age of 50 that's not necessarily what you expected.
You know, I went home and I said to my husband, sweetheart, I've got a great idea for a novel. I'm going to write a mystery. And my husband says, great. He says, do you know how to write a book? And I'm like, how hard can that be? I've read a million books. I certainly learned how hard it could be. Yeah. But you're so right, Tamron. I'm really sort of the poster child for following your dreams in midlife. It is never too late to do what you want to do. It is never too late to try.
And what you did wasn't a one-off. You wrote Primetime, but then you created the whole Charlotte McNally series. So it was one book that then turned into a whole historic rundown.
Well, it's interesting because those 4 books turned into more books. I'm loving looking at this. I'm just looking at the screen. Turned into more books, and then I started writing standalone novels. And I have been, since that day, writing a book a year ever since. And it
A
just,
book a year?
Yes. And it has been this sort of glorious second chapter of my life and career. So unexpected and so glorious and really empowering.
When we come back, we're going to talk about One Wrong Word. This thriller that will have you giving the side eye to everybody in your work world. And more with Hank after the break.
Arden watched him as he walked her direction, oblivious to her. She felt the flames of her own animosity, her disappointment, the embers of her trust. He had taught her and mentored her, like some bossy big brother who she'd always believed had her best future in mind. And then he'd sacrificed her, betrayed her.
Wow, welcome back. Here with us is best-selling author Hank Phillippi Ryan. That was an excerpt from her latest book, One Wrong Word, which tells the story of a savvy crisis management expert forced to handle a devastating crisis of her own. Crime novel legends have already celebrated the work. And Hank, this hits close to home. I often wonder when people write as beautifully and as detailed as you do, where does it come from? Because you are focused on betrayal and deception and the drama that's far different from your life at home. You have a calm life, I should tell people.
We'll talk about that at some point. Yes, it is calm. It is lovely. I am the luckiest person in the world. There's really no question about that, to be able to follow my dreams like this. But we know the world. How terrifying is it when one wrong word can ruin your life? Yeah. And we know that in every way, right? You know this.
Yeah.
And this is what I was thinking about in writing this book, is scandal and betrayal and revenge. And how many of you have had someone say something about you that isn't true? And what do? You feel defenseless. And how do you fight back? And what should you say and what should you do when the entire world is going to know about it, in the click of a mouse?
And that's what this book touches upon. And you say in the book, words could be as deadly as a gun or a knife if your reputation gets murdered. And for you, this hits in some ways close to real life. You were 19 years old. You were working at a political campaign, and your reputation was put to the test.
And I found out about it just by chance. I mean, I was a little bit eavesdropping on someone. And you have to imagine me. I was 19. I was a worker bee in a political campaign. I was the gopher, and I absolutely loved it, in the halls of power. So I'm walking down the hall, and I hear two bigwigs in the campaign talking. And one of them was saying, wow, well, I'm making up a name, Jim, has a huge crush on Hank. And I thought, what? Me? A crush on me? I was baffled by this. So the other one says, yes, and if his wife finds out about it, there's going to be a disaster. So I thought, what? And then the other man said, well, I guess we're going to have to fire Hank. And I thought, me?
Right.
Fire me? I think Jim is your problem, sir.
Right.
But I didn't do anything about it, and nobody got fired, and the campaign was over, and everything was fine. But that moment of vulnerability just has so profoundly stayed with me. I was the expendable one.
Right.
I had done nothing wrong. And who thought that was true? So when I was writing this novel, I didn't plan, Tamron, to write about this. But I'm like about halfway through the book, and I thought, oh, that's what you're writing about. And it's kind of a love letter to my 19-year-old self.
Oh, wow.
Sort of knitting up the past and saying, here's what I should have done. Here's what I should have said. And now I have Arden do it in the book.
Oh, my gosh. Well, I'll tell you. So for those who don't know, we're live right now. When I wrote my first novel, As the Wicked Watch, I didn't think anyone was going to read it, let alone a brilliant writer like Hank. You got my book. You praised it publicly. That set the motion for critics, I feel, around the country to say that the novel was good. And my second novel is out in a few weeks. And I have to tell you, I would not have written this second novel were it not for your encouraging words. So thank you so much for giving me the courage at 53 to write my novel and all the high praise that you gave me. So you don't often get a chance to thank your heroes on TV, but when your name is on the show, you can eat up all the time you want because it's your show. So thank you, and thank you, Tam Fam, for supporting two women who are dreaming. Hank's book, One Wrong Word, is out now, and guess what, Tam Fam? I love y'all so much. My hero loves you. You're going home with a copy.